What's up everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing an epic meal prep. On the menu this week, we got kale for breakfast, chicken for lunch, and quinoa for dinner. And don't think we forgot about dessert because we're going to be making protein shakes every single day. So grab your meal prep containers and let's get... Oh, that's not what we're doing in this video. Okay, so we're taking a more sustainable, enjoyable, and non-restrictive approach. Got it, okay. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was doing there with the meal prep.
Kale for breakfast.
And welcome to Active Advancement. My name is Katie and I share research-backed knowledge and strategies with the goal to empower you to lead an active lifestyle and advance in your self-development journey. In this video, I'll be taking you with me throughout a full week of my meals. This is just a typical, realistic week for me in the summer doing online school from home. I previously struggled a lot when it came to making healthy decisions about food, so that's why I'll be sharing practical tips that have helped me to develop a healthier relationship with food, maintain healthy eating habits, and simplify my meal prep. And I'll be sharing some meal inspiration as well. So today is Monday, I just finished my breakfast, and now I will show you how I plan my meals for the week. Alright, so here we are in my Notion workspace. I think it's really great to have a routine for planning out your meals because this helps to create an environment that will make you more likely to achieve your goals, and it will set you up for success throughout the week. So the first thing I'm going to do is plan out my dinners as well as my snacks for the week. And when picking out my meals, I mainly stick with existing recipes. So I keep an ongoing database in Notion that I can refer to for ideas. And then I also like to test out maybe 1 to 2 new recipes per week. So I keep a list of ideas in Notion as well. And this is just to have something fun to look forward to during the week. There are so many free recipes online, so definitely use that as a resource. Also, just to keep in mind when I am planning out these meals, there is a lot of room for flexibility and changes in plans throughout the week, but it is helpful to know generally what I'll be eating each day. Once I plan out my meals, I'll move on to creating a grocery list for the week. I have a database of staple foods that I usually like to keep on hand, and all throughout last week I've been keeping track of when I've been running out of certain foods, so that way I know that we should be ordering them for this upcoming week. Having that running list from last week is helpful, and then I'll also add any ingredients that I need for the meals that I've planned for this week to my grocery list. And then finally, I'll determine if there's any foods that I should batch prep. I don't prep too much ahead. Maybe I'll batch prep some granola, or I'll wash up some fruits and vegetables so that I have a convenient snack throughout the week. And then for everything else, I kind of just prep as I go. So when I'm making my food, I'll make some extras so that way I have leftovers. And that's also why I don't plan my lunches for the week, because lunch is always some sort of leftover or whatever I can pull together based on the ingredients I have. So that's how I plan my meals for the week, and I'll update you with a grocery haul a little bit later. To talk a bit about my relationship with food and how it's changed for the better over the years. And before I talk about this, I also want to acknowledge that this can be a triggering topic. So if that's the case for you, I would just encourage you to move forward to the next part of the video. So I would say that eating healthy has sort of always been at the back of my mind as something that I know I should be doing, especially to complement the fact that I am exercising so regularly and I make that a priority. But I didn't exactly know the best way to go about it, and I struggled for many years to figure out how to eat healthy in a way that is most sustainable for me. I definitely went through some phases where I wasn't as considerate about the food choices that I was making, and I was putting things into my body that wouldn't necessarily be the most nourishing for me. And then I went through some other phases where for a short period of time I would try to eat super clean and it just wasn't sustainable. And then around the beginning of 2020, I made the decision that I wanted to really make healthy eating a priority and not just one of these short-term things anymore. Currently, I don't follow a specific diet, but instead I try to follow a set of simple guiding principles. And so I'm going to share these guiding principles with you throughout the rest of the week. The first guiding principle is something you might have heard of before, and it is the 80-20 rule. Obviously, I don't mean keeping track of specific percentages, but it really just means that I focus on eating food that will fuel me and nourish me and make me feel good most of the time. And by this, I mean whole foods rather than processed foods, and the fewer, simpler ingredients, the better. Something that I do to help support this is not really bringing any processed foods into the house for the most part, just because I know myself and I know that that is tempting for me, and so I try to create an environment that makes it more likely that I will focus on sticking with this 80-20 rule. Another thing is making food at home most of the time rather than getting takeout. Once again, this is because I can be in control of what goes into my food, I know the ingredients, and I can control the portion sizes. Now, with that being said, I don't restrict or demonize any types of foods because I don't think that is a healthy approach either. My philosophy is just to have everything in moderation, and so I do indulge and treat myself to less nutritious foods sometimes. I don't consider these to be cheat meals or cheat days because I don't think that really has a positive meaning associated with it. But all in all, I do just try to be mindful of this 80-20, everything in moderation kind of idea. The next principle that I like to follow is being aware of food group servings, which basically means having a general idea of how many vegetables, fruits, proteins, and carbs I am eating with each meal throughout the day. Something that I personally struggle with is making sure that I get in enough vegetables, so I do try to incorporate a serving of vegetables with each meal.
Kale for breakfast.
And when I talk about food group servings, I'm not talking about tracking macros specifically. I do think that tracking your foods for a short period of time can help you to gain more knowledge about what a serving size is and what relative proportions of different types of foods you should be eating throughout the day. By being mindful of the food group servings that you are eating, it's helping to ensure that you're getting enough of each type of macronutrient, so proteins, carbs, and fats. And it's important that we are getting enough of each of these because they each play important roles in our bodies. I also think it's valuable to understand what makes up a portion or a serving size for each different type of food. And this is obviously something that does take effort to be informed about and actually understand. And servings can be confusing because the serving size often varies depending on the food group or even the food that you're looking at. Servings can also be confusing because the general recommendations can vary based on each individual person. When I talk about portion sizes and food group servings, I'm referring to what you might think of as your traditional food guide. I know that Canada's food guide has moved away from this idea, likely because of the confusion that has come with it. With that being said, having that knowledge can be empowering to help you to make the right decisions. Based on this philosophy, you might be wondering, okay, does she promote intuitive eating or does she track macros? And I would say that both of these are a little bit extreme, so I fall somewhere in the middle. I do measure specific serving sizes for some types of foods. You might have noticed when I was making my oatmeal, I do measure out half a cup of oats. Something that I do measure is the grain products that I eat, and that's simply because your girl likes her carbs, so it is something that I need to be mindful of. And then in terms of other foods, I do have a general idea of what makes up a serving, but I don't measure these specifically, and that's simply because I've learned with practice. And now I'm going to share my potentially unpopular opinion about intuitive eating. So I personally find it very difficult to differentiate between between feeling hungry and just wanting to eat for the sake of eating. And this is something that I don't necessarily think is talked about enough in this intuitive eating discussion. The science tells us that social and psychological cues are actually much stronger than our physiological hunger cues. And in my opinion, intuitive eating doesn't really take into consideration problems that make it difficult for us to eat healthy in the first place. Not to mention, hunger cues are largely genetic and they can be misleading. So for all these reasons, that's why I think the best, most balanced approach in the long term is to follow guiding principles rather than strict rules when it comes to eating. Mindset influences our relationship with food so much, so it's important to find your why for eating healthy. I tell myself that I am a healthy person, and so I should be eating healthy food. Healthy eating also complements my exercise routine, it energizes me, and it's good for me. There are so many benefits to eating well, and it's obviously highly linked with your overall health. Another component to mindfulness when eating involves eating slowly and being undistracted when you're eating. Coming back to that idea that our hunger signals can often be confusing or inaccurate, it actually takes our body around 20 minutes to register that we are no longer hungry after eating. So by eating more slowly, you're actually working with your body and helping to connect with your hunger signals at a greater level. When you are eating, it can be helpful to eliminate distractions around you and really just focus and be mindful of the task at hand. And this also helps you to better enjoy the food that you work so hard to prepare. My next tip is to make cooking and meal prepping as simple and efficient as possible. I recommend preparing food that's familiar most of the time and limiting the amount of ingredients in each recipe that you're making. And I'm not suggesting to eliminate variety completely because it is important to eat a variety of different foods. But by keeping some things fairly consistent most of the time, this helps to automate things and make healthy eating more of a habit. As you've noticed, I've had pretty much the same oatmeal and smoothie every single day, give or take a few ingredients. And that's just become part of my routine. It's something I don't have to think about, and I look forward to eating those foods each day. Also, to keep things simple, do not overwhelm yourself with intense meal prep unless that's something that you like to do. I personally tried out the classic meal prep approach on so many different occasions, and I failed every single time. So even though that's a very popular meal prep strategy, if it doesn't work for you, don't feel that you have to do that as well. Also, as I've shown so many times throughout this video, I'm a huge fan of eating leftovers. By making extra food when you're already in the kitchen meal prepping, this helps to save you time in the future and it makes things more convenient. I like to consider prepping food for my future self as a form of self-care, so maybe framing it in that way can be helpful for you as well. My final tip for keeping things simple is to use frozen foods where possible. So I'm not necessarily referring to those prepackaged ready-to-eat meals, but rather specific ingredients that have been frozen, like fruits, vegetables, chicken, fish, stuff like that. Frozen foods are often cheaper, they're easy and quick to make, and they can often taste just as good as fresh food. I haven't been showing this throughout the video, but it is super important to ensure that you are staying hydrated. So I have been drinking water all throughout the week. That is my beverage of choice. Make sure you're getting in enough fluids each day. My next tip is to opt for low-calorie dense and high-fiber foods. It's important to be informed and mindful about roughly how many calories are in the foods that we eat. And basically, calorie density just means how many calories there are in a specific volume of food. So if we were to compare two foods with the same volume, which food has more calories in it? So for example, if we were to compare foods like popcorn and chips, popcorn is much less calorie dense. And so that means that you could eat a much larger volume of popcorn that would equal the same amount of calories compared to a much smaller volume of chips. And what's beneficial about this is we feel like we're eating more, which reduces our hunger signals and satisfies our appetite. Also, vegetables are generally very low calorie dense, so that's why you'll see things like cauliflower rice, for example, because you could eat a much greater volume of cauliflower rice compared to regular rice for the same amount of calories. Again, this isn't to say that calories are a bad thing, because all foods have calories in them, and at the end of the day, a calorie is just a unit of measurement. But I still think it's good to keep this concept of calorie density in mind. If you do expend a lot of energy and you actually struggle to meet your calorie needs, you would just do the opposite. So instead, you would opt for higher calorie dense foods to meet your calorie needs. And similarly, high fiber foods help to signal fullness as well. My next tip is to prepare healthy foods that you enjoy and genuinely do find delicious. Try out new things and find which healthy foods you love to eat. You can also make things like fruits and vegetables more exciting by combining them with other foods. So for example, drinking your greens is a really great way to get in your vegetables without having to have the flavor of spinach if you don't like spinach. Maybe you like to dip your vegetables in hummus, or you like to enjoy your fruit with nut butters. You can also make healthier versions of your favorite less nutritious foods. For example, I like to make homemade granola bars because I know exactly what ingredients I'm putting in them. And another example would be homemade chocolate hummus, which I'm actually making a little bit later this week. All of the foods that I've been showing in this video are things that I eat on a regular basis and I genuinely enjoy eating for the most part. I mean, I would definitely prefer something like my smoothie over a salad, but you get the point. Going along with this idea, I really think it's important to find joy in the process. I love food, but I do struggle with the cooking and planning aspect. But cooking and eating are things that we kind of have to do, and we need to make decisions about food every single day. So I'm on team enjoy the process. I think we might as well learn how to love cooking and preparing food rather than making this a lifelong chore. As we come to the end of this video, I wanted to acknowledge that developing a healthy routine that works for you takes time. It took me many years of trial and error to finally get to the point where I feel comfortable with my relationship with food. And I will say that as I've incorporated these guiding principles into my life, it's become much more natural and easier to make healthy decisions. I really hope that what I've shared with these tips and meal ideas will be helpful for you and inspire you as well. And I hope you feel empowered to make healthy decisions. As always, I suggest that you do what works best for you. And if you are looking to make changes to your diet or the way that you eat, that these are small, gradual changes over time. So now I encourage you to take action by trying out or adapting some of the tips that I've provided that you think might work best for you and your lifestyle. Please be sure to subscribe, like, hit the bell so you're notified when I upload a new video, share this video with a friend, and follow me on Instagram. By doing this, you're helping to grow this community so that we can empower more people to make healthy decisions and work toward advancing their personal growth. Leave a comment below letting me know what tips you have for developing a healthy relationship with food. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, this is your reminder to get in some daily movement and take action toward advancing in your life. Bye everyone.